Clover, aren't you getting a little carried away? It's just a silly play.
A silly play? This is my career we're talking about. I mean, how can he not pick me? I have perfect hair, perfect teeth, plus I just love Paris. I like to see Mr. Tetley's teaching credentials. You know, Clover, you should be happy you didn't get this part. I mean, rehearsing over and over. Oh, Monsieur Vajor, what ill fortune to be poor with no family. Sounds like such a drag.
That's it! That was brilliant, Samantha. You were born to play Cosette, and I won't take no for an answer.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Tetley, but Clover should really get this part. You know, she's a really talented actress. Plus, she has great teeth. See?
But Samantha, you've got the makings of a star.
No, really. Clover's my girlfriend and,
Perhaps even a Hollywood star.
When the rehearsal start?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Condor Station. I'd like to give you a little bit of history and background for a Condor recovery program, and then I'll answer any questions you might have. I'll start with some history. In 1987, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service captured the last condor in the wild and put it in the breeding program. Imagine that was the last wild condor, and no one knew if the species could recover. Fortunately, the surviving condors mated and produced offspring. Now, after more than 17 years, there are 149 condors living in captivity and 99 flying free in California, Arizona, and Baja, Mexico. More birds are being released into the wild whenever possible, and we know that at least 5 pairs of the birds are mating in the wild. So that's good news. Now, you can guess we want to keep track of the birds in the wild. So, how do we do that? We've used different tracking systems, but now GPS, global positioning systems, attach to the birds to give us the best information. Just so you can appreciate our work, think of trying to attach one of the units to the bird with a 9-foot wingspan. Those wings could come close to knocking you out, and the beak is as sharp as the sharpest knife in your kitchen. This part of the job can be challenging. Anyway, GPS gives us a lot of data, geographic coordinates within 14 feet up to 16 hours a day. This is a very specific and useful information. One thing we've learned is that condors fly a lot more distance than any day than we ever knew. We've also discovered something that's very interesting and potentially even more helpful. We found that a species is intelligent and much more complicated than we thought. Until now, we hadn't really known how much condors actually have to learn to survive in the wild, but we now know that they do indeed have to learn to survive. An example of this comes from one of the mistakes we made in early days of raising baby condors. We had humans taking care of the babies. The people wore puppets on their hands that looked like adult condors, but they didn't act like parent condors. They just used the puppets to give the babies food. Then those babies were put together with other babies and had no contact with adult condors. Now, what we realized later was that because of this approach, the baby condors didn't learn to be afraid of people. After they were released, they would approach people without any fear at all, begging for food at campgrounds and things like that. They acted like pets instead of wild animals. Obviously, this wasn't good. After watching adult condors with babies, we realized that the parent condors taught the babies a lot about being cautious and defending themselves. The parent condors spend a lot of time harassing the babies, pecking at them and pushing them away when they're too curious. And this teaches them to be careful and to protect themselves. So, now we consider this as raising baby condors. All the babies in the program are raised either by an adult condor or by a human wearing a puppet that looks like a condor. The humans are trained to act like a parent condor, as I said, pecking and harassing the babies. We found that a baby condors raised in this way, actually taught to be cautious, are much more likely to avoid humans. Another area we learned a lot about because of the GPS monitoring is the way groups of condors relate and work together. Condors are scavengers, so they need to look for dead animals to eat. Now, you've probably never thought of it, but that's not the same as an animal that hunts for food. Think about it. A scavenger is dependent on finding a dead animals to eat at the right time or it goes hungry. So what we found is that condors actually share information about good location for food. There's actually the kind of apprenticeship where condors work together. A more experienced bird helps the less experienced bird learn where to find food. It's not really something you imagine birds doing, is it? Another surprising point is how social these birds are. Through the information from GPS units, we found that birds actually do like to socialize. One group of birds would travel about 160 miles down to coast to visit another group and hang out. That's something many of us can relate to, although we might not travel 160 miles all that often, even to visit a good friend. So that's some background on the condors. Why is this work important? Well, first of course, we like to have the wild condors living without interference from us. But in broader sense, we can always learn. As I've mentioned, we found that condors are very intelligent and their lives are more complex than we realize. So we never know what else we might learn or how important this information might apply to other animals' problems or even people's problems for that matter.